My name is Molly. I use she, her pronouns. I am one of your GMs, one of your actresses on the network. Um, and I'm here with a very special guest today. And I'm gonna switch between interviewer aspirations as this goes on. So this first section will be brought to you by Ira Glass. Um, and so, could you introduce yourself to us?
Hi, I'm Jackie. My pronouns are she and her, and I am the lead designer of Crucible of Aether, a simulationist mystic industrial RPG that I am very excited to share with everyone.
As well, you should be. From everything I've seen and read, it looks like an incredible game.
Oh.
And from what I understand, next week you will be on this network running a test game of this sort.
Yes, I will. We'll be running the Incident on Ilgriff one shot. It is a one shot designed to kind of stress test the game and to get people used to its unique setting, as well as just get first time GMs and first time players get used to this very honestly out of left field RPG that I'm sure everyone's going to have a wonderful time with.
That's wicked. Out of left field, why? What does that mean? Tell me, what does it mean to be out of left field?
Well, if I could go off on a little bit of a tangent here on how this works. So I have, yeah,
Just a
I have got
little. I'll
just
be
a little.
measuring. I'll be
Okay,
measuring. As
okay,
soon as
you
we
keep,
get to the tangent meter, I'll have to stop you.
of course, of course. So, like many people that I know that are in the games industry, when I first started playing, TTRPGs, which, gosh, would have been like a decade ago, we all had these things that we wanted games to be, right? I started playing D&D 3.5 and was like, "Oh, well, I really like that this is a world that I can run around and do whatever I want in." But the game felt very, very constricting. So when I set out to start creating Crucible of Aether, I wanted to make a game. Immediately going into explaining simulationist, but this is exactly how I'm going to explain why this is unique, which is that I wanted to make a game that basically, no matter what kind of character you made, you were rewarded doing any of the verbs, right? So many games are focused on, well, you have to talk to people, or you have to do combat, or you have to do this. I wanted to make a game where you at any moment could solve any problem in any way that you wanted. But in order to do this, of course, I needed to make systems that were just, it has to be oh, well, it's going to be a D100 system. It has to be on a custom engine because I know it's very big these days to sort of make games as hacks of other games. But I needed to just, build it from the ground up. I needed to create this fully fleshed out world filled with interesting things that you want to interact with. And so what I say out of left field is that I've noticed that, a lot of things in modern TTRPG space are switching between two incredibly awesome ideas, which is the sort of the rules light, real powered by the apocalypse world, as well as the D&D, like, let me make my class, let's fight these guys kind of thing. And I'm sitting right in the middle, being like, I have a new cool idea that I want to do, and it's you get to explore a world. There's a decent amount of rules that explain everything, but it's just here's a fully functional, fully interactable world that is built for you and your character to live in.
Amazing. 1 second. I just want to double check something. And we're going through. That's great. Love that for me. All right. Um, you're saying like yes, because this is honestly like my biggest thing. So when you approached me, I was with my friend at PAX. That's kind of why this has all happened because we were at PAX Unplugged, me supporting a
Mhm.
corporation out of the kindness of my heart. And so we met because of PAX, and I was with my friend and I was like, "Oh, they're saying that this might be like a simulationist game." And it got a reaction. And so like what do you think about, like, so for me, who is exactly the D20 on one end and the powered by the apocalypse girly on the other end, make sure you check out the trans holiday special and you donate to Dr. C's fundraiser. Check that out. um so like it strikes me as it's not even between, it's just you, it's just a different axis of game. It's just like it's on another line, it's between somewhere in some ways, but it's like, ooh, in another dimension. So like what why should I, as this kind of this viewing my world in these two dimensions of Monster of the Week and Tales of the Valiant, um what, why do I add this new thing?
So I think the thing that this game really wants you to get, because I'm gonna just open this up by saying this is not something that's like, I guess, a little bit of a fallacy in RPG space, is like, oh, this is better than, the thing on this side, thing on this side. It's not. It's different. The thing that you do with a simulationist RPG is you have a story that is ever growing and immediately mechanically visceral on your character. So sure, in other games you'll be telling these stories, improv wise, or in a D&D style game, you'll be leveling up your character down a set path. But if you want a game where, hey, remember the time that I opened up a bakery so that I could, like, infiltrate that one, like, cult. Oh, do you remember the time that I had to learn how to shoot a gun because, like, I ended up in, some weird street fight? Or, hey, do you remember when I had to, like, seduce an entire, like, group of, like, barmaids or things like that? Like, well, it's all on your character sheet now, and you just got good at all that stuff by doing it. It is. I want to. You want to play these kinds of games if you want to have every little bit of adventure be physically marked on your character.
Cool. So it's like, as much as you kind of the person experiencing the story, your character sheet actually tells some of the story along with you,
It
right?
tells
So
a lot of the story. Yeah.
cool. And so what are some kind of like, when you were kind of going through the experience of developing this, because this has been in development for 8 years, 10 years?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah,
S-
yeah. It's depending on, how you measure it, and, we all of us creators have, had our ups and downs with it. I'd say it's 8 to 10 years.
so
And mhm.
when you were first starting, like when you were in that space, like what were the systems that like, because I think simulationism is kind of like, when we first talked, you said like, hey, it's like a thing of the, it's like a, it was big in the 90s. It
Mhm.
was like a, it was like a big thing. And so what are some systems that you think you drew a lot of inspiration from? Not saying that it's samey, but like
Sure.
what did you, what inspired you?
So, one of the biggest games to look for inspiration, with it, was Cyberpunk 2020. That is, I think, one of the, in my personal opinion, one of the games that really made simulationist games really big. It is a game where, once again, your character sheet is just a list of all the skills you need to interact with this world. It is every single facet of this very fully fleshed out world is mechanically represented through the many, many source books that it has. Mike Pondsmith had an idea for a universe, and he created it not just in fiction, but in mechanics. And that was super huge. On top of that, which doesn't quite fall under the kind of simulationist RPG, but I was really, really inspired by a lot of the World of Darkness things, just to see a world that just thinks a very holistic way of thinking about a space. Because the thing you'll notice, if you really, when, dive into Crucible of Aether's lore, which, by the way, just to point this out for the audience, in the fully fledged book, I mean, we have just mountains and mountains of story on top of the mechanics. This is not a game that is just like, I'm going to sit here for 100 pages to explain how a sword works. No, I want to show you the coolest sword I've ever seen and then explain why it's cool with numbers. But anyway, um, so the World of Darkness games were incredibly holistic. So they thought of each individual aspect of this world, and they kept building on it and created just this huge kind of, I mean, like, epic, which was, I don't know, just so inspiring. Um, and then on top of that, when I started playing TTRPGs, it was around, well, when I really, really got serious, it was around the time that fourth edition was coming out. And I'm not about to say that it's inspired by fourth edition. I'm about to say that it's inspired by Pathfinder, the original Pathfinder that came out. But not in a way that, like, say, oh, it's anything like Pathfinder. But I fell in love with the fact that, once again, Pathfinder was just very detailed mechanically. Um, but what I hated about it, if it's okay for me to be a little negative, because sometimes you can be inspired by, the things that you want to fix, is Pathfinder has one verb, right? Yes, there is a skill. There's diplomacy skills, there's deception, there's stealth, but this game is about fighting things,
Right,
getting to the fight, or avoiding fights.
right,
Fight is the only verb.
right,
I was like, okay, but like, and like, you're looking at XP, it's like, well, all these monsters have XP on it, but like, I I just want to be rewarded for solving problems anyway. I
right.
don't. Maybe I'll stab somebody. Maybe I won't. I don't want to have to think about that. And so I was very much inspired by everything I believed Pathfinder would be and wasn't.
Right. And it's not even necessarily that you're saying something negative about Pathfinder. It's just like, I think when we see a book and when we hear about someone telling us about a system, our imagination can really run wild with all the things that we've ever imagined a tabletop RPG could touch on. And then you open it, you crack that book for the first time, and you're like, it's not exactly what I had imagined. Oh no! Like,
Yeah.
yeah, 100%. Okay, cool. Um, so you kind of touched on World of Darkness, how it felt like a complete world, how you could engage with the kind of you're okay. So what what I really like is, like, there is an ability to solve everything through nearly any means, as long as your keeper, your GM, is going to go along with it. They're not going to try to run you through a fight for no reason. Maybe they can let you seduce the room full of barmaids, instead of, or maybe you try to create a phone that calls Sir, I'm going to make a Monty Python reference here, calls Sir Lancelot to free Sir Galahad from being tempted in the tower there. So you could really approach things in a bunch of different ways. I think that's really interesting. Um, so cool. Um, so with your world, with you gave a series of adjectives that I was going to write down and I forgot. I loved it.
Oh yeah, so it's a mystic industrial world. So to explain a little bit about what the world very much is, it is just like the game itself, in a very interesting middle ground in genres. So it is, sometimes I also call it steampunk without steam. It is a it takes place in a world in sort of the throes of an industrial revolution, but an industrial revolution not fueled by, say, oh, some inventors created this or this, but instead a civilizations building factories on top of ancient unknowable machines that are just sort of haphazardly using to power their things. And on top of that, inventions, a lot of the new inventions that have been come up with within the universe are actually spawned in the dreams of these basically people transformed into these mechanized beings called macrons, who literally just wake up one day with a dream of, like, oh, I know how to make a new invention, and they just do it subconsciously and be like, I made a thing. I don't know what it does. Who wants to help me figure out what that thing is? And the world is sort of based around that. On top of this, it also, because of that sort of jump in technology, in that, like, different sort of advanced techs can sort of happen more or less, for lack of a better word, outside of a tech tree. There are parts of this world that, very much reflect almost a Byzantine style kind of thing, or old stone ziggurats, and all of that, where a lot of that world very much like is grappling with the fact that a lot of industrialization is happening almost eldritchly. So that is a little bit of a juxtaposition there. On top of that, even the way that I deal with sort of the mystic side of it, the way that kind of fantasy of the world is presented, it's not a world of sorcerers and wizards and elves and things like that. One, all of the creatures are one, there's no humans in it, and all the creatures
Thank
are.
God.
I know, right?
Honestly, humans
I
cringe,
know. I hate
cringe.
being a human anyway. But they're all like entirely custom original origins. On top of that, um the magic itself are all sort of based off of different faiths and ideas, and are treated almost ritually rather than your classic like I cast fireball.
Right.
Instead, it is a world where if you believe hard enough, things happen, and a lot of the sort of group think that has happened with various people have led to these different oh well, I believe the world works like this, so I can do this, and they go, that doesn't make any sense. I believe the world works like this, and I can do this, and a very much this almost uh, faith-based magic, which is both commonplace, but also still kept by a tightly knit group of people. So the average person is still, oh, I'm just a regular old factory worker working down at the textile factory, and every day I go to church, and when I go to church the people play a magical violin that makes me see illusions of my god, and then I go home to my
S-
husband.
So it's a lot. No, you had me until that last line. Um, so, you, there's like my mind is absolutely like centered on this. Like, I would love to know more about like what could you tell me more about the like the beneath, like this worrying mechanic that sits underneath, that kind of is the underpinning of the world that they don't really understand? Because it's in my mind, it's like I it reminds me of when I used to smoke cigarettes. I'd just be like, "Oh, how like life. We do not understand how the world works. And it is just the same as we are here." And so I'm like, I am so curious to know about like what is this like what is this underneath, and this cool land of unknown whirring gears and gizmos and gadgets, and um how does it inform the way that players play, or is it just kind of this like the backdrop for the world? Like, I tell me so much more about that. I'd love to know.
So the game itself takes place in a region called Odeos, which, uh, uh, like with many fantasy universes, it was a land that was basically inhabited by an ancient civilization of absolutely desperate half metal spider people creating bioorganic mechanisms to try to basically fight off what is the source of magic. They were beings entirely focused on creating structures to fight this sort of greater magical force. So throughout this entire region is nothing but these strange labyrinths that I have described in the book as walking. It's as if you are walking through a mechanical carcass of a dying creature. Um, they, in their obviously very violent, very flawed goals, ended up in kind of the classic situation, no longer being around. Spoilers, spoilers. But now, as this new civilization has moved over to where they used to be, they have found one very particular important part of their mechanisms, which is something called a source cog, which are basically ever turning gears of fleshy metal. And they go, oh, we could just use this to power our stuff. And so and so they built a lot of their towns, a lot of their things around this. However, you'll never guess, but something goes horribly wrong.
Are you saying that things were done? It sounds like humans might be on this in this world.
Hey, you don't have
Things
to be
done
human
without
to make
foresight.
yeah, I was gonna say you don't need to be human to make a mistake.
All right. Is it what you're gonna like reference the dwarves and digging too deep or something now? Oh,
There's
fine.
no
All right.
dwarves in the world either.
Hey, you know
But
what?
yeah,
It's good. You know, the dwarves are done to death.
yeah, and fantasy tropes are their own thing. So we try to we try to avoid them where we can. But the thing is that in the timeline of the game about 50 years ago, strange kind of monsters of once again all uniquely designed monsters, nothing pulling from like particular like oh the D&D handbook or anything. These strange sort of alien monsters started spawning from underneath in these ruins, which we call Doctili Hollows. And it caused chaos within the empire. Now, obviously, like I mentioned before, this is a game that is focused on all of the verbs. So I don't want people to think like, oh, well. So this is a game about fighting those monsters. That is a thing that has happened in its great history. In its huge holistic world, that is a thing that has happened. That is the thing that you can interact with. That is the thing that is happening. It is not the only thing that is happening. I mentioned that there is industrialization. There is. Oh, would you like to say something?
No, right. It's if you looked at today's modern world and
Mhm.
you just got this one snapshot of Uber Eats and that was your entire frame for viewing the world, you would think that all we do is order pizza and that living on earth in the year 2023 is just about pizza and occasionally halal food if you're me. Which is not the case. And so that is a completely wild presumption to make. I absolutely get like, we're kind of talking about it because this is my nerd overlapping with your nerd and I want to hear all your ideas, but like absolutely like yeah, no, it's a thing that's going on. Like all
Yeah,
of life doesn't revolve around, Chinese military aggression on the Indian border. Like you don't know. Like
exactly, but it is like a thing that is happening, and
right.
that's the other thing. Like I mentioned, like oh, there's big industrialization that's happening, and that it takes place within an empire, and we all know that there's no such thing as an empire that isn't evil, because that's just how empires are formed. Fuck those things. Oh, I'm sorry. Um,
Oh,
I'm
oh, my stars. Oh,
I got
my
I got mad at I
stars.
got mad at
Woo,
imperialism. I'm
woo.
sorry.
Oh,
But so like there's a lot of class struggle that's happening. Do you think the factory workers that are being exploited by the foremans within this place are thinking about the monsters? Well, some of them are because they have to live right next to them. But like a lot of the times it's like, oh well, that's going on. There are different interpersonal struggles. There are other parts of the world that aren't heavily industrialized because it's not directly on top of those things. So, what does it mean to both be free from those spaces while also being excluded from that sort of great resource towards industrial progress? What does that mean? So, and the other thing I want to mention once again with this is that like this is a game where you are once again leveling up skills by using skills individually, and you are also not just forced into a class, but instead every little odd job or faction you join is something that you get a skill tree for that you can make as part of your adventures. So basically, yeah, you'll be on a team, like you'll be having an adventure. Sure, there might be those monsters and those hollows, but you might be playing with a team that's like, I'm the local cook, I'm part of an assassin's guild, and like, hi over here, I'm just like a healer from a nation that doesn't interact with these monsters. What are we doing? And at the same time, you then have your little adventure where you're interacting with these monsters. You find a monster hunter, and he goes, "Let me teach you how to hunt monsters." Those people in this world are called rangers, and they go, "Okay, great. Everybody has unlocked the ranger career from when we hunted monsters." It's one of my favorite things.
so how do you like? What does starting Like there's a lot of like when you're facing this level of like the world is literally your oyster. Like how do you start? Like
Well,
what's that first step?
mhm. So first of all, character creation in COA. So I'm just going to put a little disclaimer here. A lot of the playtest, because we're obviously not trying to give away the whole thing, uses pre-mates, and also just because we want to jump you right in, we want you feel comfortable and do this. But the way that character creation does work in COA is. Uh, just like the adventure ahead of you, your past is equally very robust. It includes sort of a not just an origin, but a nationality, because we want you to feel like you can be part of any sort of kind of community within this world. We're trying to stay away from once again fantasy tropes. Fantasy tropes. The last thing we need is pick a race. Yeesh. Um, so you get to do that. But then here's one of my favorite things. So you get to pick a background, right? And the backgrounds are, they give you your starting set of skills, they give you starting equipment, they give you, your starting currency and all of that stuff. Which, by the way, class disparity is very real in this universe. Um, uh, but you will, so you pick all this stuff, and it might be like, oh well, I was trained by a guild, like the Guild of Assassins, right? So it gives you assassiny skills. And then at the bottom, you get to pick your starting career. Now, careers are kind of the things that I mentioned that you both start with and unlock during gameplay. That's when I mentioned you could start off with a chef, but then you unlocked the ranger in the middle of my little story there, and you can keep doing this throughout the adventure. Now, the Assassin's Guild will give you, say, the ability to say start as one of those assassins, right? You were a trainee and you could easily just commit to the path. However, you don't have to. You can be like, okay, well, I take the background that I was trained by the Assassin's Guild, but either maybe I disagreed with the way they were doing stuff, or whatever infinite way you could tell your story. Maybe I failed, maybe this, and you pick your starting career as clothier. Maybe you're just a weaver instead. You just decide to be a tailor. So you start off not just with this, hey, here's this huge world ahead of me to interact with, but I am already a part of this world. I know exactly where I'm from, where I've been, and my general relationship to where I've been. Some people liked it, some people didn't. That kind of stuff. Because I really want people to feel a part of the COA world. I found it so frustrating in going back to my old early TTRPG stuff, where they go, "Hi, I'm, Gelgador, the elf fighter." Okay, so what is a fighter in your world? What does that mean? What is a fighter? Where do I fit in? What does it mean to be this? You don't have to question that in COA. You know exactly what part of the world you're from, and then you can get started.
Cool. So there's a lot of there is a significant, so from kind of what I understand here, there is a lot of underpinning for flavor and underpinning um for like where you're kind of like you said a couple times, like where you fit in the world. There's kind of like there's suggestions and there's points, and then there's room for player creativity within that,
Mhm.
kind of like something to get you anchored and then something to explore from.
Exactly. But also nothing that gets you anchored too deeply. I've always been very much against the idea of being like, well, a person who is this acts like this, right? There's some numbers that represent, where you've been and what kind of things you've interacted with, but I never tell you you are from a faction. You have to interact with the world like this. No. You are a person. Everyone is a person, and I want you to be able to be a unique person.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we love that. Awesome. So, um as this has been a decade of passion for you, maybe waning and waxing passion, Sounds like kind of from what you've shared. Now that you're kind of in this wax and you're in this unfoil in this unfolding portion of it, um, what are some of like the big moments or like I don't want you to like I'm not asking you to give away anything here, but like what were like some of those big things where like you grab it's like an aha moment or like a big thing that happened and you're like, ooh, that's so crucible. Like I need that needs to be folded into my game immediately. Like what were some of those aha moments over the last decade?
Hmm. So I think it's a little bit hard to pin down a very, very specific moment when instead I found that throughout the entire development of Crucible of Aether, I have put my entire self into this game. It has been not just a oh well here's some mechanics that I really oh
No, I have seen the book, and there are a lot of pictures of you in it. Actually, the cover
no,
is just a picture
incorrect.
of Jackie.
Incorrect. But yeah, I have put my entire self into this game, and have been like, this is what I like. This is what I want in a game. Oh, this is some things from some other games that I think is really cool. Here's some things from other pieces of fiction that I think are really cool, and I put it in the game. But then, and here's my favorite part about the fact that it's been happening for, almost a decade, is that I look at all the stuff that say 19-year-old Jackie put in the game, and I say, that's cool, that's dumb, that's cool, that's dumb. So I take those things that I didn't like and I say, okay, well, why don't we like that? Let's fix that. Then we do that process two, three, four more times up to now where it is at release. It is a game that has literally matured with me. It is a game that has learned from my own experiences. It is a game that has grown up with me through who I am as a TTRPG player, who I am as an adult. Hell, when I started making this game, I didn't even realize I was trans. And oh my God, do you feel that transition throughout the entire game?
So tell me more about being an adult. As a Toys R Us kid, I personally identify as a Toys R Us kid. Tell me about like what is being an adult like?
What? I mean,
I hear
uh,
that you drink cafe cafe. Am I
yeah, enough
pronouncing
to get
that
through this
correctly?
interview. Yeah, I I'm just gonna fire my first shot there, but no, the
I'm gonna
uh,
leave here like Swiss cheese. Oh, that hurts. Ah, ah.
but no, no, no. I mean, like legitimately though, I think something that as storytellers we tend to do is that writing all the time in all stages of your life is really really good. And to be able to look back at your work and see yourself in it and to see a self that you no longer are, usually for the better. Somebody that you are now you look back at a time that you were maybe a little bit more confused, maybe a little bit more ignorant, maybe a little bit more unhappy. And to go back and to look at those things and to be like, I see you, I understand where you're at. Let's fix that sentence.
So it sounds like not only is it's self love in a way.
Hmm.
It's kind of a four-dimensional self love. You're
Yes,
kind of showing love to the Jackie of the before times.
mhm. Do you mind if I share a little anecdote
I
about
insist that you share a little anecdote.
so there is a character in the lore, um, one of my favorite characters, a the leader of the Nictriu, who are these basically Tanuki-like people,
I don't
but
know what that means.
um, they're a raccoon dog. Uh,
Cool.
uh,
With you
um,
now?
Yeah. But basically, the leader of this place is due to a lot of complicated circumstances, um, a woman who is forced to pretend to be a guy because of these sort of greater things that are happening. I made up this character without realizing I was trans. There are characters now in the lore, there are just trans characters, of course, and that character is still there. That character is still very much there. They have an interesting story, but it's that thing of like I have now walked. If you if you read through this lore, you can see just almost if you really go deep into what is in the story, you can see my passions and the passions I wanted to share with other people at so many different stages, and some of those stages are very deep in very closed metaphor, and other ones, and you can clearly see later, are just like, this character is a trans woman, she's fighting the empire, we love her. You know, like, and you could see that, like, oh well, this is Jackie at age 20 and this is Jackie at age 27.
Love it. So there's little bits of you as the creatress throughout this game. I think that's
Absolutely.
beautiful.
Oh.
Um no, it is. I mean, I don't think I think that reaching out I just I am always impressed when people actually practice four-dimensional self-love because it is, or even four-dimensional self-recognition, because this was something I served in the Peace Corps, and like one of my friends, she sandwiched in for no reason. One of my friends had on their mirror like self-love includes your past self, includes your future self, right? And so like making sure that you have that representation in the game of who you once were, who you are, who you aspire to be, you know, that uh, us trans freedom fighters working against the empire, DeSantis for the empire. Um you know, and who we may have to be. And so I think that, that's really like a beautiful thing. I'm really happy that that exists. Um could let's take a look here. Could you tell me a little bit more about like I think we've kind of gone over like, you know, the system is very built around like you build skills by playing the game instead of building skills out of game and then magically applying them in game. And it kind of gives it the opportunity for players. So here's a question. As players go, like what do you think that COA does uniquely to inspire player creativity and storytelling?
What I think it personally does is it makes you go, okay, I'm gonna go through an arc now, right? So you will see like, okay, in a playtest I recently had, for example, I am was playing a character who is entirely just a dressmaker. I am not somebody who fights. I am not somebody who is a sneaky assassin. I make dresses. I Because I got caught up in so many different things, things that I have chosen to do, I had to kill somebody in that game. Something that, once again, because we're giving you all the verbs, has so much freaking weight. Unlike in a game like D&D, where you're like, oh, I just fought somebody anyway, give me 10 XP. Um, it has so much freaking weight. And now I had to kill somebody because I was trying to save an assassin character who I guess you'll appreciate this a little bit more. I'm trying to be in a lesbian relationship with. And so, I know, right? Scandalous. And so I now go, okay, I am not just trying to do this arc because improv wise, story wise, um, I want this to happen. It is partially because of that. But if I manage to succeed this, I will be becoming a better assassin. I no longer will just have dressmaking skills. I will be following this lady and learning to sneak, learning to actually use a dagger, and also the group of assassins that she's involved in has a an ability tree. It's a career. It's one of the careers in the game. So I'll learn how to do that. And so the way that it inspires player creativity is what if you could just build your own class all the time out of your story and see it always changing?
That's pretty wicked. As someone who does a lot of concept, like my favorite thing to do when is this important to say? No. So as far as what do you think is what is it like to GM a session of COA? Like if I sit here, I on Tuesday I run a Tales of the Valiant or a Level Up Advanced 5e. On Wednesday I run a Monster of the Week game, and on Friday I run Crucible. Uh, what what can I expect as a GM? What's that experience like?
So we've worked really hard on refining the GM experience because I'm sure, as the audience has probably heard, as I'm describing this huge world. I'm describing things that I know very, very intimately, and we wanted to make sure that a GM, especially new GMs, could easily get involved in this without having to memorize stacks of lore or having every career tree possibly memorized. That's insane and also not fun. So what we ended up coming up
Not
with,
fun for you, fun for
fair.
me. I'm the one who has everything memorized. Anyway,
Well,
sorry.
honestly, then you you would do unbelievably well. But we wanted to make sure that it was still approachable to people that don't have that mentality. So we created basically an element system, which is more or less your classic NPC. Classic NPC stat block that you would have. On top of that, it would be a combination of information relevant to your story that you could learn from them by increasing degree of difficulty. Not, oh, well, you can learn this thing from this NPC to by doing this action. No, just a list of information you can learn from them, and you go, okay, as a GM, I now have an idea of a plot in mind. I have all the NPCs that are involved in this plot. I have what the NPCs do and what they're involved in, and I just play it as a sandbox. I try to make sure that this information is given to the players as in whatever way they want, in whatever way that I feel like is good for the story. You are just given these really, really digestible moving pieces and say, cool, have fun. Go and like play them. Go and explore them. Don't have strict scenes. Just encourage player creativity. Just encourage adventure. Encourage experimentation through these element systems.
On a transverse network, we just had a woman come on and encourage experimentation and exploration, even through tabletop, really salacious stuff. We're really going blue here today. So, kind of what I hear from the GM side is that you have cut for the world that you have constructed. Could you say the name again for me?
We made very digestible elements.
No, no, no. It starts with an O. O
Oh,
D
oh, 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 yeah, the Empire of Odeos.
Odeos.
Yes.
So as far as like with Odeos, you have these bits of the world that are sort of prepackaged, not prepackaged, but are ready to be consumed by GMs, so that it's not as huge, it's not a big thing to dig things out. And so this is actually one of the things that I tell first time GMs. Like I personally I GM for LARPs. I'm about to do one in San Francisco in a few weeks, snow gods be willing. I live in Western New York. It could go anyway. Who knows? Um, and it's like know what everyone know what the people know, and know vaguely how they can go about getting it, and give it to them. If they go to the place, don't be coy. Like that is like one of my biggest things is like GM advice. Like have secrets written out, have NPCs figured out, have a little bit about them, and then grip it and rip it. Have fun, right?
That's literally how COA expects a GM to play it. It's it's funny. I keep seeing all these things online that it's like, oh, my players derailed my campaign. Oh, they derailed this, and I go, well, in COA, there's no rails. It's just a big box.
Well, and like as someone who is, I have run sandboxes. I have run kind of more traditional linear things. And it's like if you just said, "Hey, let's play D&D," or "Hey, let's play a tabletop RPG," and you never had any discussion of expectations or like, "Hey, we're going to be playing in, oh my gosh, you're gonna have to say it to me 8 more. Well, let's play in the original world of Crucible, and but we never discuss what this is gonna be about. So like maybe we're launching a dress empire
Mhm.
in one of these parts of the kingdom. Maybe that's the
Mhm.
game that one person wants to play, and another person wants to join the Assassin's Guild, another person wants to blah 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 blah. Like while all those things are there, like setting a tone and having an expectation for the group, like, hey, in order for me to write a directional story, there is a little bit of concession and player freedom, and that has to be a something that the players consent to. And so the idea of like, hey, I've been derailed, that's your players telling you something that you should have negotiated beforehand. And the local trans femme lecturing on consent. Who's surprised? More news at 7, or sorry, 8. This is EST. And so it's just like I love the idea of having a sandbox. I love the idea of having like some of these things set up,
Mhm.
and especially for like playing home games or for creating something really unique and original in the kind of live play space, the actual play space that we occupy is all on the table. Like I think it's really cool. Do you have anything else like that you really you're itching to say about Crucible that you really want to make sure that you hit on?
Mhm. Yeah, so I will double down in the fact that there is open playtests that are happening on February 1st. There is a link to the Discord, that is being posted, and you know, like I said, I've been working on this game for a very long time. I have a wonderful team behind me. I want to make sure that people get to stress test this thing. I want this game to be the best that it can be, and the only way that that can really happen is if people come in, give it a shot, have their honest opinion about it. So honestly, come down, play test it, see how you feel. See if you want to get involved in this out of left field RPG, this simulationist mystic industrial RPG, because we absolutely welcome you.
And this is um you know this is we Jackie and I were talking before the show, and Jackie feels very confident about their moderators that they're facilitating a space that is safe. Um, so I really, please make sure that you're going over and checking that out. If you are not already in the know, or you haven't been following our Instagram or reading my mind, more likely, I probably haven't posted this yet. Next week, next Tuesday, we're actually Jackie will return if I don't squander all of my goodwill.
You're doing
I'm
great.
I'm I'm close. It's close. It's iffy. Is it? It's iffy.
No, you're
Oh,
doing fine.
dang it. Uh, hope maybe we could get fireworks here. We will be back. Trev Tells Tales, who you might know from our Tales of the Valiant stream last fall, who will be running a Wanderhome campaign starting February 13th. We will all be doing a wonderful, and one of your friends. Oh my gosh, what's your friend's name?
Josie, my friend
Josie.
Josie.
Josie. So we're gonna have a bunch of queers on a network, and we're gonna play Crucible of Aether, and we really want to make sure that y'all are here with us to watch along and to kind of share with us in those moments, like maybe what your experiences were during your playtest on February 1st. So please make sure that you join that server and that you join us for that stream, and that'll be really cool. So if you had 30 seconds, what is your 30-second pitch for Crucible?
Crucible of Aether is like I said, a mystic industrial simulationist RPG where it is completely focused on player progression. So if you want a game where all of your adventures are marked on your character, where your experiences, the people, the faction you've joined, the ways you've solved problems are physically represented on your character sheet and are ever evolving as your story and your person and your experiences are ever evolving. Come play Crucible of Aether.
Love it. I the that like the passion, you can just see it in your face. It's amazing. Like I literally like I wish that they could bottle that so I could get that as a drink at 7-Eleven. A Mountain Dew is pretty close. Sorry, let me be true to the all on the table branding. Shock energy drink from the Trans Holiday Special often hits that for me, but here we are. So could you tell me um what
Yes.
what did the process of transition of kind of like acquiring or embracing your queer identity, there's a big 180 here. What did
Sure.
that look like for you?
Oh, in unrelated to COA
Or
or
through the
because
lens? I mean, you
yeah, I
touched a
mean,
little bit on it, but I'd love to hear.
well, just gonna put this out here. Whenever I talk about transition or anything like that, it is entirely my own personal experience. A big disclaimer here. I can't speak for the T's. For me personally, transition is to have a conversation with yourself constantly about gender. A conversation that is informed by yourself, by people around you, and like I mentioned earlier, where am I having a lot of the vent of that conversation? Well, it's in that game I keep talking about. So, yes, that's what it means to me. It's about that conversation.
So, can you tell me like what are what are kind of like could you tell me about like kind of like three facets of that conversation and like how you think they manifested in COA?
Well, I mean, there's the very blunt one, which is the hey, I'm not cis, right?
You're
Which
not
is
cis?
I know, right? Sorry, I am I not allowed to be on the show?
We'll go with it. We'll go with it.
Okay, okay, we'll just keep it rolling. Anyway,
We'll
but
see if
no,
we can
it's
use it. We'll see if we
the
can use the
beginning of the
footage.
conversation is really big, right? The ability to open up that conversation. And like I mentioned in that story I told earlier, where I'm clearly like not fully understanding something I'm feeling about myself. That story about that the leader of the NICTRU, and then later bringing that into having actual trans representation and like more fully fledged out trans characters as I was writing that, sort of opening up that conversation, realizing who I am. The second part of the conversation, which I think is really really big, is that I feel like I personally struggled very much to, and I'm going to put this in really heavy quotes so you know that like the ending of this, which is I tried to define what it means to be trans. Uh, Wrong, incorrect direction to go. Um, and so a lot of that, like, hey, let me every time I have a gender feel, let's represent that in characters, right? Let's whether that be a character who is literally trans, who there is something with metaphor, who even is just doing an action that I feel like gives me a lot of gender, you know, let's represent that and let's like explore what that means and play in that space. And then I think the final part of the conversation, the most important aspect of it, is to realize that you're never going to stop having this conversation, right? You're never going to stop looking at gender. For me personally, I don't believe in finishing a transition. That once again is personal experience. That might be something that obviously I don't speak for everybody, but for me personally, I feel like I am going to be in some stage of transition forever. And yes, COA is almost out. Yes, I feel like it has become a game that is maturing with me, but it is something that I am going to be still in its final stage of development. I'm still learning. I'm still growing. I'm still trying to make it the absolute best it can be through more informed ways of looking at some of the things that I've already put in the game, or just even the way that I present it. And even after its release, it will be just a chapter in my life, and maybe COA will continue. Hopefully, if people really really latch onto it, and that of course will have new conversations. We'll bring that into it. So yes,
It's interesting because it is. it's sort of like with any creative work, you just sort of for a while you kind of like you're like you're tinkering and you're in your workshop and you, ooh, I can put a bauble, I can put a bauble, I can put a bauble, and then you have all these gears and you have your ever turning flesh gear in the center, which is a phrase, a two-word phrase that will sit in my mind like
I'm glad.
greedy meat wallet,
I love
which
that.
is another piece of PR. Anyways, and so you add baubles and you add baubles, and then eventually you kind of set it out in front of people, and you're like, it's a thing. And it's kind of like the conversation about it continues in your head,
Mhm.
but the book is there.
Mhm.
And so like what do you like what do you what do you think that's gonna be like?
Well, I mean, to be fair, it is currently doing that, right? Like, as you can see, the fact that I'm on the show, the fact we're doing the actual play, things like that. That I have brought this out to many people. Some who have looked at my game through just casual, hey, this is an interesting game. Some people from completely different sides of that the Powered by the Apocalypse D20, thing. I've had people look at it from the sense of sensitivity reading and things like that. And the answer is, what is it like? Well, one, at times it can be a little jarring because you don't see through everyone's eyes. But then what you do is, like I said, you're always having that conversation. You go, okay, I get you. I understand. I see what you're saying. Let me fix that. Let's make this game the best possible. You know?
I think that that everyone is constantly in transition. Cis people, trans people, we're always transitioning. There's always a change going on. You never achieve full stability in life. Something that trans people do is that we embrace an extra level of transition. We embrace another level of uncertainty that kind of runs as a through line through our lives, right? And I think so it it's an interesting add-on to all of us. Our work is constantly in transition. Our creativity is constantly in transition. And also gender.
Hmm. Gender TM.
Gender trademark. So as you said, like when you started having this conversation, um what now you Jackie at the ripe old age of 21,
I wish.
with great maturity and heft, um what what would you tell Jackie that's just starting out on kind of Crucible, this journey that will not only make your first TTRPG product that you're getting ready to huck at the World's Fair, but fundamentally kind of alter who you are? What would you add to that conversation with baby Jackie?
If I could go and talk to baby Jackie starting off on this thing, I want to tell them that it's absolutely worth it. It's all absolutely worth it, and everything's going to be okay. The the game, the transition, where they're at in life. I just want to tell them it's going to be okay.
And would you say that what advice do you have for maybe the eggs who might watch this at some time in their lives in the future? What advice do you have for the people who are eyeing transition or who are evaluating it? Is it kind of the same? It's worth it?
Well, once again, I don't want to speak. My experience is anyone else's experience. I
Sure.
don't. I came from a very very specific, set of circumstances that for me personally, absolutely, this is exactly what I needed in life. All I want to say is that we are all people that need to, one, find community and be willing to constantly reshape yourself in whatever capacity that means, whatever capacity is healthy, whatever capacity is happy for you. Be ready to constantly reshape yourself, and also don't do it alone.
I love that. That was like having community during the first couple years of my transition was unbelievably helpful. So
Yeah.
if you are watching this VOD for whatever reason, the guild of Am I Muted on World of Warcraft Illidan, I think we were on, or Thrall, Area 52, one of those three servers. Look it up. Am I Muted? Um, that was really one of the communities that made me help me flourish, and then really finding your local trans support group, finding your local queer support group. We can't say enough about it. Can't vouch for every single queer support group leader. There are trans medicalists out there, and it's just bad. Not a good thing to be. So don't watch Blair White. There's the other piece of advice I would always give people. Always good. So we're into hour two.
Hmm.
Are you ready to pivot?
Oh, what are we pivoting to?
The pivot questionnaire.
Ooh, that's exciting.
All right, wicked. Um, what is your favorite word, Jackie?
What is my favorite word? Hmm. Now, my knee-jerk reaction as a 29-year-old autistic kid is to just say Fangoriously from Homestar Runner, but hold on, I could do something better than this.
I think that that's valid. What does fangoriously mean?
What do you think it means?
I don't know. I didn't
Wow,
watch
it's
Homestar Runner. I was on Newegg when it was coming out, but I wasn't doing that.
amazing, amazing.
She says
Well, it's
outing herself.
I was gonna say, it's like when something bites you with all of those fangs, fangoriously.
That's
It's
pretty
an
good.
adverb. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. What's your least favorite word?
My least favorite word? What is my least favorite word? Hmm. Insert whatever like terrible thing that we as trans people have been called for the ages here, obviously. But I think I think my I think my least favorite word as somebody whose unfortunate day job is working in an office is PTO. I hate fucking. Whoop, I'm doing it again. I'm gonna control it.
It's okay.
I
We're
get
up to. You done two so far.
yeah. I got mad at empires. I got mad at corporations. I'm so sorry. But I hate just any corporate term that makes it seem like they're rewarding you for having any sort of time for yourself. You, I just I hate capitalism. It's bad. That should have
And
been the word. It was capitalism. That was the thing.
capitalism. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Hmm. I mean, there's so many things that would do that, right? But I think it's just um I think it's the joy I see in experiences with other people. I think when I am in a space fully myself and fully joyous, where I can just be a weird little dork, I feel so good, and it just gets my brain flowing. I feel like I can be witty. I feel like I can be inspired to put that joy into things that I do creatively and to try to spread that joy.
Awesome. Authenticity is pretty freaking great.
Yeah.
What turns you off?
Hmm. I hate like uh, cynicism and like cynical irony. You know, look, I'll admit it. When I was a teenager, like I was one of those people. I was definitely one of those people. Those like, it's cool to disagree with you. I feel like I'm not alone here. And now I see
No.
that. As growing up, and whenever I see people that just want to be so cool by immediately pointing out the thing that's bad about a thing, I'm like, this is a non-starter. This is a non-starter.
This is something that I vibe with on a massive level. Is that criticism is so much more easy to come by than creation. And
Hmm.
one of the challenges that you take upon yourself when you are going down the line of being trans and you're going down the lines of creating a game is that
Hmm.
you have to like self critique, but you mostly have to create. you just build. And it is so hard to build. And it is so easy to be a sniveling little crap nose behind a computer. Like, I know because I was that person too, and that was so easy. I played so much WoW, and then I was just a great critic. And so now, obviously, I can't say how much I love that. Um, I think I might know the answer to this question, but what's your favorite curse word?
Favorite curse word? So, am I allowed to say a curse word on here?
We'll call it your third, and that'll be it. Then we'll kick you off the network forever.
Okay, it's cunt, because I plan on getting one day. Anyway,
Hey, me too. High
hey.
five. What sound or noise do you love?
Hmm. Okay, don't bark on the air, Jackie. Uh, let's see.
If you want to bark, bark.
Well, I mean,
Make
that's
like
the
a
thing.
tree and bark.
Yes. So yeah, I would say it's definitely okay. No, going back at it. So you know how? Okay, I personally have an experience of being not just autistic, but surrounded in a community of other people that are autistic, that have just made sounds all the time and we're feeling all kinds of things. I once again can't speak for everybody that has these experiences, but it's just within my community, this is something that I see a lot. And going back to that original question of just one of my favorite sounds is just all the sounds that we feel like we could finally make uninhibited, whatever we feel like it. It is the most freeing, most amazing thing you can do. I know me and just everyone I'm around, we're just constantly just I'm in the middle of nowhere, and whatever echolalia I got at the time, it's going off. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. Like I can't tell you how like I was trying to explain this to someone. I'm probably on the ADHD autism thing. I'm very heavily in the ADHD camp. Everyone who's ever watched me is like, yeah, we know. You just keep moving and you can't pay attention to anything. And so I like, but when I'm in like a very sensually intense environment, like I was trying to explain to someone like how calming like saying sandwich meat is, and then just like having my friends like echo sandwich meat back to me, and that's like it's like wicked sandwich meat. You know what I'm saying?
It's so it's so happy. It's
It's
such a
just
happy
sandwich meat.
feeling.
It just is what it is. So
Exactly,
I'm with
sandwich
you.
meat.
What sound or noise do you hate?
I mean, so the opposite flip coin of that is that I have misophonia. So like the sound that I hate is the sound that I can't control that's like, "Oh yeah, hey, you know that person that it has like no respect for anybody around you that's just like drinking water real loud, or the person who decides to, play music really loud at 3 a.m. outside your window. Uh, any sound that gives me a panic attack is the answer of that one. You know?
That's fair. What profession other than your own would you most like to attempt?
Hmm. Okay. So I feel like the cop out answer is obviously. Uh, uh, I mean, you could argue that being a TTRPG designer is my profession, so I can't pick that. But
That's
I'd
what
love to.
I'm going to argue.
Okay, that's incredibly fair. I've always really wanted to be honestly a talk therapist. I currently work in tech. I know breaking stereotypes,
We're just
but I
shredding the stereotypes here. To neurotypical, completely normal, no echolalia, no swearing. We're just very gaily forward here.
exactly. I would like so I work in tech, but I'd love to be able to be a talk therapist. I'd like to be able to work with people on more of an emotional level than these sort of cold, kind of office spaces that I'm currently in.
I feel like we do that as like a GM. I feel like I'm like halfway an erotic role play partner and other half therapist. You know what I'm saying?
I do understand this, and it shifts in the group. It shifts in the group depending on how much you go to one side or the other, but it's all there. It's all
it
there.
it's like the spectrum, right? It's Moonblade on World of Warcraft.
Hmm.
No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, it's BetterHelp, and then the third, then the Crucible of Aether. I don't know what it would be on the top. I love that. What profession would you most not like to do?
Cop. Next question.
One, three, one, two.
Nice.
What if the afterlife exists?
Mhm.
What would you like the omnipotent, the omniscient to say when you arrive to the next step?
Hmm. To me?
Yes.
Well, I will say I don't know if there's anybody in the audience that has any sort of, personal faith, so I don't mean to be in any way offensive or anything
It's
like
about
that. But if
you.
this okay, but if I see the great being, I want them well, first of all, I want to look them dead in the eye, and I want them to say, "I'm sorry. You were right."
Cool.
Mhm.
So that is, I always love that question as a way to end things. I think it's a wicked way to end an interview. I always saw it on Inside the Actors Studio, and I was always super impressed with James Lipton. I used to rewatch this Robin Williams interview over and over and over and over. Oh, mwah, I loved it.
Hmm.
Um, so um I want to give you any last chance to kind of speak on COA, speak on any plugs for anything, any other events you have coming up.
Mhm. Okay.
So
Yeah.
so yeah,
I I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but like seriously, come and join the Discord server. Come and talk to us. We're an amazing group of creators, and we are running public play tests. You both for players and GMs. So, and of course, also catch us on the six on all on the table. We're gonna play the game. If you're not really quite sure about it, you want to like see how it works, all the things that I've said. Just watch us. You'll see it. Have a great time with it.
hell yeah. All right. So, I so like obviously, here for AOTT we have a number of really cool shows that are going on. This is our fourth Saturday, so I do believe it's Light of Cinders this week. I think it's Tan Show this week. So, cross your fingers and hope that the internet gods are very kind to them and their people. um their cast rather is the phrase I'm looking for. um on Tuesday next week, Trev tells Tales, Josie, Jackie, and I will be playing the Wicked one shot that we already previously mentioned. We're very excited for that. Obviously, Trev from the Tales of the Valiant stream. Jackie from this, and obviously you're following the Crucible of Aether page on Instagram. It's Aether Crucible, Aether underscore Crucible.
That third one. We also it's the same thing on Twitter, which I know we all hate Twitter, but that's the thing. And if you're also just interested in just following me a little bit, I'm also Jackie Tries Internet with dashes in between each word on co-host.
Wicked, which co-host is a new one for me. I'd actually never heard of that. I love that. There's definitely like, I think a lot of the other staff here are like big blue sky truthers, which is a whole other experience for me. I don't really get it. Um, So yeah, I love that. That's wonderful. Aether underscore Crucible, AETHER underscore Crucible on Instagram and X or Twitter. Make sure you check them out. Make sure you check out Jackie Tries Internet on co-host. Um, then so we have that going on, and then we will come back in, I believe, Jenny and Artifacts of Romulus will be back the Saturday following. And then, oh my gosh, Trav Tales Tales, the author of Another Kind, will the co-author of Another Kind, a wonderful book by Harper Books, will be running an awesome campaign with Viara our favorite VTuber TTRPG player, who you know from Tales of the Valiant, Descent and Avernus. You will also be seeing Harmony once again, and hopefully you'll be making some new friends as the campaign moves along. So, hey, thank you so much for joining us on this awesome day. We really appreciate your time. Again, I've been Molly Hits Different. Please check me out at Real Royalty. I'll be in San Francisco later in February, and then I will be at TTRPG in a Castle, which is a product by the Game Theater, where I'll be running Call of the Netherdeep in 23 hours. Whole campaign in 23 hours. Woo! So make sure that you're checking that out, and we'll be back at it then. Jackie, thank you so much for hanging out with me. This is a lot of fun.
Thank you. This was just wonderful to have this opportunity and to just like be able to just be passionate about what I'm working on.
It's great to be passionate and like out and like showing it and like unmasked.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here for it.
Hell
All
yeah.
right. And good night, everybody. Mwah.